But I'd like to start with our first inductee. Anyone who has ever caught a bass on a spinnerbait, buzzbait, or skirted jig owes a special thanks to Fred Arbogast. Back in 1934, the native of Akron, Ohio, was looking for an alternative to the labor-intensive feather and hair dressing of his bass baits. Having worked for Goodyear Tire and B.F. Goodrich since high school, he hit upon the idea of a rubber skirt for lures. He called his creation the hula skirt. He used it on his bait, the Hawaiian Wiggler, a precursor to the buzzbait. As well as lures, he called the hula popper, the hula dancer. His design led to the use of rubber and other materials to make pliable skirts for a multitude of lures that are still popular today. By the time of his sudden passing in 1947, at the age of 53, Arbogast had designed nearly a dozen deadly bass baits, including another perennial favorite, the jitterbug. Arbogast's contributions to fishing extended beyond lure design and manufacturing. He won his first distance casting competition at age 22, and within a few years, he'd begin to dominate national casting competitions. He held world casting records in both accuracy and distance categories, earning at least 8 national championships. In 1925, he hurled a half-ounce weight 293 feet, just shy of the length of a football field. He was a tireless educator and promoter of bass fishing. He was also a dedicated conservationist. As a leading member of the Isaac Walton League, Arbogast campaigned to curtail water pollution and to protect fisheries from overharvest. Arbogast Lure Company continues to thrive today under the ownership of PRADCO Outdoor Brands. Our first inductee to the 2024 Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, Fred Arbogast. I'd like to welcome, with a very special presentation from PRADCO, Bruce Stanton.
Thank you, Dave. My wife's probably wondering why I got a broom up here, because I never use one. Fred Arbogast, unfortunately, he's not here. He died in 1947 at a skating rink in Akron, Ohio. Had an accident and died. At that time, he had over 200 people at Arbogast Lure Company working for him. Sales were $1 million in 1947. So it was a big lure company back at that time. But Fred designed his first hard bait, jitterbug, with a broom. He took the end of the broomstick and he put the 2 spoons on the end of it. His wife wasn't real happy with him. But that was the first jitterbug. And it's still in 2,250 Walmart stores. Bill Dance, our great Hall of Famer, caught his first bass on a jitterbug. If you go to Bass Pro Shops Base Camp to see Johnny Morris or my good friend Steve Miller or Will Billiter, you can see a picture of a man catching a bass. And over that tracker boat, there's a frog-colored hula popper hanging there. And I always look up there because when I go to sell him something, I want to make sure that hula popper's still there. If it's not there, I probably need to leave. But I'd like to ask my good friend Kevin Van Dam and Bill Dance to come up here. I'd like 2 of my vice presidents, Heather Chaffin and Chad Warner, to come up here. We did something special with the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. We had a special jitterbug edition of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame lure. Kevin Van Dam, even though he works for Strike King, Rather Outdoors, volunteered to put his name on it, which is huge. Bass Fishing Hall of Fame brings people together. And his bosses, Rocky Calso and Ken Eubanks, they got caught up in the hurricane. They couldn't be here, but they approved this and wanted to do it. So a special thanks to Kevin and Rather Outdoors, Bill Dance, Jason Christie for letting us use their name. There's still a few left on lurenet.com. We've got some at the auction table out here if you want to buy some. Kevin and Bill's names are on it. So John Mazurkowicz, would you please come up here? We're going to give you a check for $12,000 to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Here's to Fred Arbogast. I want to join everybody else in thanking Chris Houston for being here. I caught my biggest crappie ever with Chris, so we love you, Chris. So glad you're here. Thank you.